Shavua Tov, everybody. Shalom and welcome to the Israel Brief with me, Rolene Marks, where I take a look at those top stories making headlines in Israel. I do it every Monday to Thursday, and I do it in connection with these guys, lay of the land. First up, I have to owe you a huge apology that there was no Israel Brief on Thursday. Now, have you guys ever had one of those days where all your technology just conks out, you can do nothing, and you kind of want to go and hide under a rock and feel sorry for yourself? Well, that was my Thursday. I don't know if Mercury is in Gatorade or retrograde or whatever it is, but everything technology related, my WhatsApp was terminated. I finally got that back. My connection to Chai FM in South Africa, where I do a daily Israel report, that didn't happen. My Israel brief didn't happen. There was immense distress and feeling sorry for myself, and I so appreciate so many of you praying for me on Thursday, because I think you sensed just how distressed and stressed I was, and I felt so awful. So my huge apologies to all of you. Second of all, I want to wish all our Irish friends a very happy St. Patrick's Day. I don't have a Guinness here myself, but maybe when I come off radio a little later, I will toast to St. Patrick and to all of you from Ireland who stand so steadfastly with Israel. It is day 528 since the 7th of October, which means that we have had hostages in captivity for 528 days. There are still 59 hostages, only one of them, Hadar Golden, who fell in battle in 2014, whose body's been held captive since then, but the rest all taken captive, either alive or dead, on the 7th of October. We want them all back now. The living, and we presume that there are still about 24 who are still alive, to return for that long recovery process, and for the dead to return for a dignified burial, and for their families to have closure. And just a reminder that these hostages are not just Israelis and are not just Jews. We have Christians, we have Muslims, we have Hindus, we have Buddhists from many different countries who are still held captive by Hamas. Release them now. So it has been quite a busy 24-hour news cycle. Let's take a look at the top story. And last night, Prime Minister Netanyahu made the shock announcement that he will present the government with a mandate to fire the head of the Shabak, Ronen Bar. Now, the Prime Minister says that it is issues of trust. However, Bar was set to step down. He said he tends his resignation, but will stay in his position until the last hostage is returned. Now, there has been some clashes between the security establishment and the Prime Minister, following many calling for the Prime Minister to call or to engage in a state inquiry. Just several weeks ago, along with the IDF, the Shin Bet released their report, their investigation into the events that led up to the 7th of October attacks, and they were very critical in those findings of the government policy of the time. Now, there are many intricate details. I'm not going to go into what the report found. You can find it online. The Attorney General called the dismissal of Bar unlawful, and the opposition have said that they are furious, especially right now during this time of war. The Israeli Business Forum have also criticized plans to fire Ronen Bar, and former Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, who is right-leaning himself, has called on Prime Minister Netanyahu to resign. Meanwhile, protests are expected to happen across the country on Wednesday in protest of Bar being fired. Hamas and the United States hostage negotiators are clashing in what they are saying publicly. Over the past weekend, Hamas is reported to have said that they were prepared to release 5 Americans held captive, which would mean Edan Alexander, who's still held captive, and the bodies of 4 other Americans. Now, this was termed psychological warfare by the Prime Minister's office. And again, it's a reminder that when it comes to any news about hostages, the only official sources are the IDF and the Prime Minister's office and the hostages forum. I know that there were some social media groups putting out that there were hostages coming home. It's extremely irresponsible, and this was not the case. Now, Steve Witkoff, who is the lead negotiator from the United States, said that Hamas is being speaking basically with 2 faces, being publicly flexible, but behind closed doors, there are demanding terms, he says, that are impractical without a complete ceasefire. Hamas's terms include they want the resumption of humanitarian aid, which Israel has stopped because Israel says the aid is used for military purposes. They want Israeli troops to withdraw from the Philadelphia corridor, and they want to move towards a ceasefire. Witkoff has warned Hamas that they have to move forward and proceed with a deal as quickly as possible. The Israeli Foreign Ministry, along with Sheba Medical Center at Tel HaShomer Hospital in Tel Aviv, have dispatched a delegation to North Macedonia. Now, this follows a deadly fire over the weekend that killed 59 people. The Israeli delegation, which comprises of doctors, nurses, burn and orthopedic specialists, will be there to treat victims and help them with their recovery process. And finally, a historic moment took place on Friday, and that was the welcoming of 100 Druze clerics from Syria into Israel. This is the first time that Syrian Druze have been in Israel since 1948, and the scenes were absolutely incredible. Joyful reunions and a lot of welcoming and fanfare. The Druze clerics were in Israel to visit a holy Druze shrine. Now, last week, Thursday, Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs announced that we will be sending at least 10,000 units of humanitarian aid to the Druze community in southern Syria. That includes food and various other packages. The Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar said that it is a privilege to help out our Druze brothers, of whom we have an alliance with, and that as a minority community or as a minority people in the Middle East, we understand and we are called on to assist other minority communities. So those are your top stories. Let's take a look at the audience question, and it comes from Howard in New York, who says, Raylene, with the US firing on the Houthis, is Israel concerned it might spill over? Howard, that is a great question, because as we speak, our Air Force is on high alert. So if you haven't followed the events of the weekend, the Americans have struck with quite severity the port of Sana'a and Hodeidah port in Yemen. This is in response to the attacks on US vessels and other shipping vessels in the Red Sea, as well as the constant threat. President Trump said to the Houthis, your time is up. Now, the Houthis have threatened to launch weapons or launch missiles towards Israel, and as a result, Israel's Air Force is on high alert. Over the weekend, a missile landed in Egypt, and it is still under investigation whether or not that was aiming for Egypt or aiming for Israel, and fell short. Meanwhile, the Houthi rebel leader over the weekend said that the Houthis had struck the USS Harry Truman stationed in the Red Sea. So we are going to watch that very, very carefully, but a very smart question from Howard in New York. And a reminder to you that if you have a question, please pop it in the comments section below or be in touch with us via our website. And speaking of our website, you can find it on www.layoftheland.online. Our Facebook community is at Lottlesite, that's at LOTLSITE. Please help us grow our wonderful Facebook /Meta/ whatever you want to call it community. We are on YouTube. I had to think about it for a second. You see what happens when I don't see you guys for a few days. We are on YouTube at the Israel Brief. If you like our content, please click on that red subscribe button. We are on X at Lay of the Land 5, on Instagram at Rolene_Marks, on LinkedIn at Rolene Marks. And guys, God bless you all. I will see you again tomorrow, and I promise not to forget. Take care. Bye for now. God bless.